There has been yet another terror attack in Jammu and Kashmir's Poonch district. An army convoy got ambushed, leading to a fierce encounter with terrorists in the area. Additional forces were rushed in as the encounter raged on. As many as 16 security personnel and 7 civilians have been killed in this region so far in 2023. In fact, these two districts account for 50% of the terror-related deaths in 2023. What explains the spurt in terror incident in Jammu region of late? Before I introduce my guest, let me take you some data points. And these data will tell you that yes, the incidents of terror have gone down in the Kashmir Valley, but then it has seen a surge in Poonch and Rajouri. On this issue, I am joined by Lieutenant General Syed Atta Hasnain and in studio my executive editor Aditya Raj Kaul. So before I go to both of them, these park-based terrorists are seen setting up operations Rajouri and Poonch. Poonch and Rajouri has accounted for 50% of the terror-related deaths in 2023 in Jammu and Kashmir. But most important of all, Aditya, before I go to General, why has this happened? This ambush. What's the latest?
Well, first, what I can tell you, Karthikeya, is that this is a very terrible news that has come in. This happened earlier this afternoon, where we came to know that since last night, there was an intelligence-based operation that was underway in the Surankot area in the Poonch district of Jammu and Kashmir, where the Indian Army and the J&K police had launched an operation to flush out terrorists. And while the encounter was underway near the DKG road in Surankot, Poonch, we had a convoy, an army convoy moving in that area, which was ambushed by Pakistan-sponsored terrorists. And initial reports indicated that one truck was attacked, but now I can confirm that a truck and an army gypsy both were attacked. There are photographs of army gypsy that have just come in that clearly indicate blood lying all across that gypsy and all the window panes of that gypsy completely shattered. We are also getting unconfirmed reports right now that at least 3 Indian Army personnel are injured in this attack. Casualties are being feared, but the Indian Army or the Northern Command have not confirmed as to what the situation really is, because the operation is still underway, the encounter is underway. You've rightly pointed out, Karthikeya, that in the last couple of years, or at least 3 years, there's been increased activity of Pakistan-sponsored terrorists in Rajouri and Poonch areas. In fact, General Atta Hasnain would be able to explain in greater detail why this has happened. He has written extensively on the Pir Panjal and what activities are going across in the upper reaches of Jammu. But what I can also certainly tell you is that at a time when Article 370 has been a mighty...
Is there any information on the casualty injury?
As I said, no confirmation on the casualties. Casualties are being feared, but what I'm learning from my sources in the army is that 3 army personnel are injured. You have to remember that in the last less than 3 years, there are 8 to 10 such attacks that have happened where army vehicles or army jawans have been ambushed, and clearly there are at least 40 or more casualties that have been reported also. The main targets remain the security forces and Indian Army in that region, but also the minority Hindu population in Poonch, Rajouri, Kishtwar have been frequently attacked in that area, and there's been a mission of Pakistan that at a time when it is increasingly difficult for them to operate in the Kashmir Valley, they're trying to relaunch and reinvent their strategy in Rajouri Poonch belt.
Let me go across to Lieutenant General Atta Hasnain. Sir, your first take on the rise in the terror-related deaths in Poonch and Rajouri. Why, sir?
Thank you, Karthikeya. Thank you for inviting me for your show. And I start by, of course, expressing my very deep regrets for the casualties which have happened. I only hope these are not fatal casualties. The reports which have just been spoken about by Aditya is absolutely right, that the so far information available is that there are 3 injured, maybe seriously injured. And this was an ambush on a reinforcing, you can say it's a QRT or just a reinforcement which was moving in on an operation which was already ongoing in this area on the road between Dera Ki Gali and Bafliaz. Bafliaz is slightly in the depth on the Surankot sector and slightly in the depth, but again in the nape of the Pir Panjal. So your observations at the beginning of this program are absolutely valid. This is the area, and stretching on towards Thana Mandi on the other side of Rajouri, where you find that the maximum operations of Jammu and Kashmir have been focused at the moment. Now, let me just explain this. Article 370 removal had its effect in the valley. Over a period of time, better intelligence, better removal of networks, etc., resulted in a dilution of overall terrorist trends and a concentration towards South Kashmir and further concentration into the Pir Panjal. The similar thing had happened in the Jammu region, Jammu and Poonch region, where you found the concentration moving towards the Pir Panjal direction. So now you've got a corridor of the Pir Panjal in which this concentration of terrorists is. One of the major reasons, as we have ascribed earlier also, is the fact that this area has seen a slight dilution in deployment in the footprint of the army. This is an RR unit on which this has happened, a Rashtra Rifles unit on which this has happened. The RR, a portion of the RR has been moved from here and sent to Ladakh. So there is obviously a reduction in the overall footprint, but I am told that a fair amount of redeployment has been done here by other reserve formations. So it's not as if the area is devoid of troops. But the intent seems to be to revise the terrorism here, because it seems to be as if it is easier to infiltrate here as against the valley, where the grid, counter-infiltration grid, is very, very deeply layered. So it's for these reasons primarily it is happening here. We have not had too much of success here. We have not been able to remove the terrorists who have been operating in the higher reaches of the Pir Panjal. So this is one of the major reasons why this continuously we find these operations taking place.
Is there a specific reason why, General, that the success has not been reached in this area? Is it topography or is it a terrain which is really difficult for any security forces? What are the reasons, sir? Why is it different from the valley?
Well, the valley is much more built up. It is flat, open. It does not have this kind of jungle terrain as you find in the Rajouri Poonch sector. That is the prime difference from this area. This area is very, very rugged. It is right in the nape of the Pir Panjal. What you find on the valley side is only a small stretch of territory which is broken and forested. It's deeper into the valley. It is much flatter, open areas and things like that. Here, from the line of control, the distance to the Pir Panjal is very short. And as soon as you hit the road, beyond the road, the climb to the Pir Panjal starts. That's where the forested area is. Very rocky, lots of outcrops. And just to remind you and remind our listeners, this is the area where Hill Kaka, where in 2003, we had a virtual fortress of the terrorists which had been established there. They had tried to resist us for quite some time, but a fairly good success had been achieved by the Romeo force of the Rashtra Rifles through an organized formation level operation. But that operation takes time to plan and obviously is much larger than the normal operations which carry on an everyday basis.
But General, do you see any method, any reason why the Indian forces are being attacked in these two sectors?
You see, Karthikeya, it is important. Pakistan has invested a tremendous amount in the last 34 years in Jammu and Kashmir. And they find that with this whole movement after Article 370 having been removed, you find that in the valley, almost total control has been achieved by the security forces and by the rest of the elements. So there is an attempt to try and keep themselves relevant. All the networks that they have established, they must keep them relevant. If they have to bounce back one day, which is what their dream is, probably what they want to plan for, then they cannot possibly afford to have a situation where they've got no network at all here. And this is the reason why they keep terrorists here, they keep infiltration going here, and whenever an opportunity comes, they try and carry out some kind of an action by which their relevance is realized by the local population. That's the prime purpose of Pakistan's operations here.